Janine, thank you so much for sharing.
Not for my group, please. Can run after.
Yes. We're going to hear from Janine Donaldson this morning, but before we do, let me pray. Lord, we thank you for your servant Janine, who you love so much. Thank you for her humble, gentle nature, the way she blesses and encourages all who is in her presence. Lord, just bless her today with refreshment. Bless her today as she goes through the busyness of her tasks, today and in the weeks ahead, Lord, with refreshment. And we pray that you will anoint the word she speaks to us today. Amen. Janine, easy question as well. What do you want to say? So easy.
Well, I think, first of all, I just want to say how great it is for Robert and I to be here with you. It's an incredible privilege for us to serve alongside each one of you, and we're greatly encouraged. Thank you for who you are and the ministry that's yours and your heart and passion. It's really a blessing, and we just want to encourage you again today. But again, we feel privileged to be serving alongside you in this most wonderful country and continent.
Thank you. We love you here. Is there anything in particular you want us to know about you?
Yes, okay. I'll tell you a couple of what I think is quite interesting. I really quite like animals. Now, I have to be fair. There's quite a few little creatures that you have that I'm not quite so fond of, but I'm glad that God made them.
Have you seen an Australian snake in the wild yet?
No, I have not.
You should come to my group today, running.
Somehow, Lauren, that doesn't kind of... But I believe you. But I do like animals on the whole, and I do like dogs. And over the years, we've been able to have a few dogs, not all at once, and I've enjoyed them. But I particularly like Jack Russells, and I'll tell you why. Because you never quite know where you are with them. Just when you think that you've got them under control, they do something naughty. I kind of like that. And a couple of great privileges I've had, which I've really enjoyed, is in a flight simulator, I've landed successfully a Boeing 737 twice.
Awesome! Woohoo!
And I've also driven an open-wheel racing car up to speeds of 270 miles per hour around a racing car track, and I love that too. I was the only female. I was the only female, and we had to follow the practice car around first, and somehow in the excitement of it, I passed the practice car. He was not very pleased. But, and another time I got pulled off by the mechanic. I had to have cushions actually to sit on because I wasn't quite high enough. And he said to me, you know, you're a really good driver. He said, but those guys are really winding you up. He said, just calm down and drive. He said, you'll get past them, no problem at all. It's a very good piece of advice.
That's great. Look, I don't know if Robert has been invited to the Just Men conference, but there's a billy cart race there, and perhaps you should take his place.
Yeah, I'm all for that.
Now, eyes high and heart abandoned.
Yeah.
When have you had to really, really lean into this, and how has it been real in your life?
I think for me, I'll just share a little bit of a story in Africa. So the first country we served in was Zambia, and when we were appointed there, I was not given an appointment. And I found that just a little bit difficult, but I was okay with it because our children, when we left New Zealand, were 1, 5 and 7. Another thing is, you know, you have to get people and for the powers that be in those days to actually support you and say that you were going to be okay and you could take up, well, I didn't have an appointment, but, you know, that I could live there. And no one supported me. No one thought I could do it. That was a really interesting place for me to be because, you know, when you know, there's criticism in that, right? There's criticism that they judge you on whatever. And I had to really speak to myself and speak to the Lord about that because that was, you know, and I was actually quite mad. You know, I wanted to go up to them and say, well, you know, tell me why you think I'm not going to be able to do it. So I had to keep my eyes really high on the Lord there. And then we went there in the February. And in the April, Robert's father had a massive heart attack and he needed to return home to New Zealand. So I was left with the 3 boys 1, 5 and 7, after a very short time in a very foreign country. And we had power cuts all the time, and we had no water when the power was off. So it was really, really difficult. We were quite sick. You know, when you first go to those countries, you get tummy bugs. And our little 1-year-old, he went from a really, chunky, cute little cuddly baby to, really looking very thin and skinny. And I was actually really worried. He didn't have malaria, and they struggled to find out what was wrong with him. And at one stage, I remember putting him in my arms and going to the hospital and saying, "Oh, my baby's dying," There was no communication, no cell phones. I didn't know if Robert's father had lived or died. I didn't know anything. And boy, I had to really get on my knees and put my eyes high and say, "Lord, you've brought me here, and all these things are happening. What's your plan here? What are you going to do?" I'm worried about my child. I feel like I have no support. It's long nights with no power, and I had to really get on my knees and bow before him and abandon myself to his plans for my life and trust him when I really couldn't see that he would never leave me. And I remember praying that, and he kept saying, "Put your bowl up, I'm here. You have all you need, trust me." And it was really, really difficult.
So that's what he was saying to you. How are you receiving that? What did you learn about yourself during that time?
I really learned about trust and really being able to walk by faith when you really can't see from one day to the next. And it was a bit ironical because we just had power cuts at night all the time, so I was always walking blind with a little. But that one light makes a huge difference. And I had to hold on to his word that he knew what was best for me, and I just had to bow the knee and rest in him despite wanting to fix everything. And that was very, very hard to do. It was really hard to be in that place for what felt like a very long time.
How did you bring that home to a Western culture where we don't have blackouts, we pretty much can fix stuff if we want to? How do you do that now in everyday?
Jesus is the light of the world, and I just love that analogy and love that is what he requires of us, to be that light, to be that salt. And it seems, very straightforward. It's something we're all so familiar with. It's something we've preached about on a number of occasions, but that's the truth of it. Be the light. Be his person in this world. He's created you to be. You're unique and special, fashioned by him. And your DNA is original, and he has a work for you to do. So be that light, be that salt, and trust that he who's called you is faithful. He's summoned you, he's called you, he knows our names.
As you go around the Salvation Army in Australia and the world, is there anything that you see that stops us from keeping our eyes high and our hearts abandoned? What stops you maybe?
Well, I think that it's so easy to let circumstances stop us. It's easy to let perhaps criticism stop us. And I think there's always something. If someone has something to say, and I've learnt this over the years myself, you have to look at that and work on that. There's always something that God's Spirit can develop and help us along. But don't try not to take them too personal. Look at it. Do what you need to do with it and move on. God has a plan for you. Trust his plan. Trust what he's called you to do, that he will do it.
And I've got here final words. Sounds a little ominous, doesn't it, Janine?
It does. I was just going to say that.
Would you like to say anything more or pray over us today?
I want to encourage you again in your ministry and the work you're doing, and don't be distracted. I was really blessed this week, and I apologise to my wonderful group of people in the elective who I don't know so much about me bringing something to them, but just us being together, focusing on God. There's a story at the Auburn Corps on Sunday where I looked into the story of Jairus and his daughter, and just want to pull out a verse in Mark from that when the mourners came to Jesus, and sort of said, look, it's too late. You know, there's no point you coming now. The child's dead. Jesus spoke really harshly and decisively, and it was the same verb that he also used in getting rid of the demons. You know, he was very firm. And for me, it actually had never come to me in this way before, that he doesn't want us to be distracted. He knows things will put us off. He knows things, and sometimes quite rightly, we get very annoyed and indignant, but he doesn't want that to distract us, to be about his business. And I really loved that he was so firm, because he knows the world wants to draw us away. And so don't be distracted. Read that. I think it's 39. Ask me later. I've got it on my... But I was really taken by that. You know, he said, yeah, you've come, but don't be afraid. She's only asleep. You know, don't be distracted by your sadness. And I read that really appealed to me. Be strong.
Okay.
Be bold.
Thank you so much for sharing, and I just want to say thank you both so much for coming. I know as I've observed you guys wandering around, you've been such a blessing to people, have a discerning heart to give encouragement where it's needed and about the things it's needed for. I've just noticed that, and I just wanted to say thank you so much.
Thank you.